Yeah, hey, welcome to Satanic International Radio. Tonight is a great show. We're going to have Brian Werner, singer of Vital Remains, fellow Satanist and friend Mike Cross, fellow Satanist and friend. We're going to get into this. I wanted to ask the first question to Brian. How did you get into Satanism? Was it via death metal, or did you get into Satanism first and then in death metal, or vice versa? If you can tell
I
me
mean,
about that, that'd be awesome.
the two were never mutually exclusive. Like for me, I went to Catholic school, kindergarten and first grade, and just by the end of first grade, at 6, 7 years old, I had already didn't agree with it, didn't believe it, and I left immediately, and I went to public school after that. And then I'd always listen. My uncle listened to metal, so like some of my first memories of music were actually King Diamond. Merciful Fate back when I was like 6, 7 years old around that same time. I remember, Painkiller when it came out when I was like 8. And I always just kind of went down that same path. I was never really influenced by rap and hip hop by any means. Um, so then, it was just the natural progression, kind of got older, 10, 11 years old was like when Vulgar Display of Power came out, Arise, started getting a lot of that shit in like fourth and fifth grade. Slayer too, obviously, Metallica. And then I was born in 1980, so 10, 11 years old was like 90, 91. So by like 92, 93 was like seventh grade. And that's when we really started getting into like the Cannibal and everything else. We were like one of the first generations of metalheads that didn't really come up with like the Bathory and the Venom and the Destruction and all those bands were there. And we went back and obviously I love Creator, I love Sodom, I love all that shit. I got into it very early as well, but that wasn't the foreground breaking music at 15 years old. I was only 5 years old in '85, so I don't really remember that aspect of it. Like somebody like Tony, Tony, you ask him what's the first greatest metal band of all time, I'll tell you Venom or Merciful Fate or something, Bathory, something like that. Yeah, I don't. Obviously, it's too young to remember those days. So mine were a little bit different. By the time I started coming up into death metal, was you said satanic death metal. The first name that always came to mind was fucking Deicide. Hands down. And that was right around the same time Glenn branded himself. The upside down cross in his forehead. And obviously, being 12, 13, 14 years old, looking at that, going, "Oh fuck, that dude's got some fucking balls." But there was also something to be said in those times, in the early '90s. Fucking not the glam fags, but real metalheads, man. We were respected and feared. If you had long hair and a fucking Deicide shirt in school, people left you the fuck alone.
Mm.
There was an intimidation thing there, and with good reason. I carried a knife on me in school. I would use it on you. Yeah, so with good fucking reason. I get a shirt that says like WWPBD. What would Paul Bailoff do? And Paul Bailoff would see some glam poser walking down the street. Dude, he'd jump out of his car and he'd beat the fuck out of him on the sidewalk, no questions asked.
Yeah, man.
And that's why I think that a lot of these poser trends that have kind of come across lately, I think it's really our fault. We got older, we didn't start pitting as much anymore. We kind of gave up after rap rock. You know,
Yeah.
these kids never got thrown into a cannibal pit and got elbowed in the face a few too many times and said, "Don't fucking do that karate shit." You
Yeah.
know? We let them get away with it, man. So it's really kind of fucking our fault, But it sucked because at that time I was 15, 16, was finally coming of age to really get into music and go to shows and, play in a band and shit. That's like 95, 96, and everybody started sounding like fucking Corn. And, it's this fucking rap rock bullshit. Oh my God, man. I mean, and this is coming from somebody like myself who I love Faith No More. Okay, I fucking love Faith No More. I'm a huge fan. I
Ashes to
even like
ashes.
Bring the Noise when Anthrax did it. I thought, okay, there's a quick mix of rap and metal, and they did it with Public Enemy, which Chuck D, it's like okay, at its time, it made sense. I mean, I do like NWA now that I've grown up. Some of my tastes have changed. I grew up listening to that shit back then, but had no appreciation for it. And it's sad to tell you that, you know, when music has gone to such shit that you can actually like appreciate, you know, good rap music. That just tells you that there's just no hope for music in the future.
Well, Brian, what do you think about, like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Was it? I mean,
I
was
think
it?
they're
I mean, LaVey came out. What he started like
60,
making a
that's
scene
what
in
I'm
the
saying. You know,
'60s. So
66, you already had the influence there with Led Zeppelin. Everybody knows what those symbols mean.
Rolling Stone, yeah.
Yeah,
Many.
exactly. You know, so you already had an aspect of that, but I also think that that was just a lot of the words of a bunch of drug crazed fucking lunatics that just, you know, didn't know what the fuck they were talking about half the time.
So
I kind of see Led Zeppelin as kind of Wiccan and Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath were satanic, you know.
Yeah,
The gate, you know, with the diminished fifth, and
exactly.
that shit hadn't played for 500 years before then. You know, people had forgotten about it, and you know that diminished fifth riff at the beginning of Black Sabbath came out, and that was the first time anybody heard that shit.
Yep.
And everyone just went, "Holy fuck!" You know what I mean?
And not only that, but then even the lyrical structures were done eloquently in those first few albums. You know.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, for
you had a
sure.
lot of Lovecraft influence. You know, you could tell that, you know, the homework. But then, you know, then again, so did Zeppelin. You know, Jimmy Page bought Aleister Crowley's home.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, was a devout, you know, there's a lot of fucking underlying factors in Stairway to Heaven and shit like that, too, if you ever, like, really just try and decipher it.
Jimmy Page, it was rumored that Jimmy Page had the largest occult library privately amassed.
That would absolutely would not surprise me at all.
And I also heard a rumor that the guitar player from Green Jelly or Green Jello.
Yeah, Bill Manspeaker.
Yeah, I heard a rumor that he actually bought Jimmy Page's library from him, or a large part of it. I don't know.
Wow.
Yep.
That's incredible.
Yeah, because I know that guy's from, you know, I mean, I read this on the fucking internet. You probably know him first.
I had a similar experience with fucking Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah.
You know, we were playing out in LA with Guar, and I had this stuffed mounted like ram's head, like a taxidermy ram's head. I was out and hold on stage for the invocation, and then like we were at the House of Blues in LA, and there's like a smoking section. And I was just sitting outside smoking a cigarette, and Guar was on, so everybody was inside. And I saw this guy come out, and he just asked me, he goes, "Oh, was that a real goat head? He's some sort of pagan?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, actually." I sat there and shot the shit with this guy for like 10 minutes. And it looked like him, but he was really fucking fat, man. He was really, really fat. I was like, this looks like him, but there's no way it's him. Yeah, so and I'm like, he works here. Like, why would he be here? You know, so I didn't think it was him, you know, and then a guy gave me a bottle of vodka and shit. And then the next day, Brocky was like, "Dude, you see Dan Aykroyd at the show last night?" That motherfucker, I was talking to him for like 10 minutes, and I couldn't decide if that was him or not.
Real quick, Brian, I went to this comic convention, but I'm kind of a UFOologist type guy, and I had a similar experience, just in a different situation, where I was talking to a guy about UFOs and mass UFO sightings and government conspiracies and all this shit, and I was thinking to myself, this I recognize his face, but the guy was like, you know, well over like 250, and I'm just like, I didn't get it until I walked away, and they're like, somebody had mentioned to me like, "Oh, what did you and Dan Aykroyd talk about?" Like, fucking Dan Aykroyd? That was Dan Aykroyd? Okay,
yeah.
word.
And then Brocky was telling me that he actually sat down with him like a year earlier and was talking to him, and I guess all that shit in Ghostbusters and Dragnet was all Dan Aykroyd's idea. And he gave me he's like, "Have you ever tried this Crystal Skull vodka?" And I was like, "It's cool, but I don't drink." But he gave me a bottle of it, and he's like, "Yeah, that's there's like the Mitchell Hedges skull." You know, that was his inspiration for making the Crystal Skull vodka, and like Dan Aykroyd's very left-handed, like very much into his occult theology.
So, what do you think came first, the chicken or the egg, Brian? Do you think,
Well,
were you into Satanism or were you into metal first? I mean,
Oh, for myself or just the genre in general?
No. For you personally, man. For you personally, how did you get into Satanism?
It's hard to say because they were both kind of at conception. You know what I mean? I don't remember ever growing up in any other music. It was always rock and metal. I don't ever really remember growing up believing in Christianity. You know, it never took with me. I mean, I had to do my first communion when I was in like second grade, but that was by force, not by choice. I was baptized, and I was a newborn baby. Nothing has ever meant less to me, you know. Um, but even ever since I was like 5, 6, 7 years old and being told the stories, I never once believed it, you know. Um, and then I was told in kindergarten that Santa wasn't real, so that one got spoiled for me real early, and I'm kind of glad it did because you know what, it really I make jokes about that in interviews. I say, well, when did you realize Jesus wasn't real? I was like, at the same time I realized Santa wasn't. As soon as that, then all the others fell in line. Santa wasn't real. The Easter Bunny wasn't real. The Tooth Fairy wasn't real. Jesus isn't real. In your 5-year-old brain, that's just how it compartmentalizes it. And they always say that's why children are the purest of mind because they can see through all the bullshit.
Well, and Brian, and people ask me all the time, like, when do you decide to become a Satanist? I said, well, I never decided I was a Satanist. From the time I was born.
I was born a Satanist.
Right, we were born this way, but they were like, when did you identify yourself as a Satanist? I'm like, well, as soon as I stopped believing in the Tooth Fairy, the Easter Bunny, Christ, that was it. I was done.
Classes and CFM classes and shit, and the only time the teacher had any of my interest was when she was talking about the devil. You know, any other thing they talked about in class, me and my friend would sit there with the little headphones running off our hands, listen to like Master of Puppets and shit. And like that's what we would do in religion class and like listen to Slayer. And fucking and when you're like 10 years old even then, and even then the only time they would ever have any of our attention is when they talked about hell and fucking rituals and whatever. Then I would be like, wow, this is interesting. So it's always been just a natural attraction.
I think you're born with that initial black flame. You know what I mean?
It's
the interest in the esoteric and in the darker side.
I don't. There's an aspect of that. That's how it starts. That's how it grows. But then later on, it starts to feel like a kinship with the earth in a way.
Yeah.
Ascension doesn't sound promising to me.
Yeah.
I look at the landscape here. I don't want to ascend to another plane. I would stay here. I wish to be chained to this earth and to this place. Yeah. And by all writings and all scriptures, talk about Lucifer is the father of this earth. This is his place. This is his fucking kingdom. No one else's.
Yeah.
And I'm at one with this place.
Brian.
Sooner or later, there needs to, in all of our minds, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when and how one becomes comfortable with what will eventually be perceived as oblivion or eternity. And like all science teaches us, energy cannot be changed. It cannot be destroyed. It can only be changed. So not to say that there'd be some sort of conscious reality afterlife after it. I'm not going to divulge one way or the other, but I think just becoming comfortable inside of one's own self is the greatest piece of heaven that you can ever achieve.
Absolutely.
And here's the strange thing, Brian, is the evolution of the child. It's kind of like I do believe in the firm fact that Satanists are born, not made. But you don't realize that as you're born, obviously, but when you evolve to the state, just in your personal growth as a human being, and you call shenanigans and bullshit on all this shit, even at a young age, as far as 10 years old or whatever, you start to look outwardly, or we call it leftwardly, and then you see other paths, and you choose one. And there's only so many individuals that will go down the ones that we have gone. I mean, there are hundreds of paths, but we chose this particular one. And I think there's something inside us that dictate, like, this is where you should go. And we just go on instinct. Because as you know, when you break away from the herd, you're isolated, especially if you do it at a very young age. There's like, I want to be part of the herd. These are my family. These are my friends. This is what I know. But now I feel alone. And now I'm isolated. You know,
Well,
what
I
do you
had,
do? Like, what do? You do what we all did in this conversation.
well, for me, it was, my struggle was a lot more severe than most. I left home at a very early age, and I left home when I was 14, and I was several hundred miles from my family, and I was completely on my own. It was very difficult, but it's like that picture I posted on Facebook the other day where it's got the little girl bent over, and it says, "If you ever feel scared, angry," it's got the big demon standing over, drawing a pentagram. It says, "You'll always know how to call me." And during some of those most trying times, there were things around me that were definitely helping me, protecting me from shit that more than inevitably should have happened to me, but didn't. Um, and that's when I first realized magic isn't something you do; magic is something you are.
Absolutely.
And once I came to that conclusion, I was able to cast aside all the other negative shit that was holding me down immediately, and was really able to take advantage and learn how to manipulate my environment in accordance with my will. But I definitely had help. It wasn't all me. So that's why I always said I'm not an atheistic Satanist.
Yeah.
Never have been. I never will be. I just don't speak publicly about my spirituality and the theistic side of things because I think that's something that's very personal and it should remain personal. We can't sit here and fight a war against, Christians that are trying to shove their religion down our throat by turning around and doing the exact same thing.
That's right.
So when people sit there and go, "Well, what do you believe?" Well, I don't give a fuck what I believe. It doesn't matter what I believe. I'm not here to enforce what I believe on anybody else. What and how I practice inside of the sanctity of my own home is my business. I will tell you that I'm a Satanist, and that's where my affiliations lie. Past that, I don't need to explain my spirituality to justify a Christian's idle curiosity.
Yeah.
I don't need to do it. I'm above you. It's always weird trying to have this conversation in a public setting without really kind of divulging into shit because, I look at a lot of the satanic arguments that happen all over the place. It's always this person says this about this, and they're fucking arguing back and forth like little bitches sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's a divide and conquer technique, and I would think that everybody here believes that the satanic community couldn't be more divided. And how are we supposed to accomplish anything if we're sitting here fucking arguing like Protestants and Mormons and Lutherans and Baptists?
That's exactly right.
I
mean, that kind of leads us on to a question I've always I'm kind of experiencing in my path at the moment. Like you've traveled in a lot of satanic circles for a long time, Brian. And I mean, have you ever kind of felt there's a looking down of the nose at Satanists that have come to this via music? I feel sometimes there's a lot of Satanists that aren't death metal heads, and they kind of don't. I feel like they don't get it. Like we're less of a Satanist because we're.
And you know what? I look down. It's kind of that argument. I know exactly where you're going with this, and I kind of use the same analogy for that I use for Muslims. Like when people say, "Well, you're not afraid of what the Muslims are doing." No, I don't. They should be afraid of me, not the other way around. They don't look down their noses at me. I look down my nose at them.
Right.
Cool. So it's completely ineffectual to my reality because I just don't even give it credence. I could care less with some fucking fat jackoff who listens to psychobilly music and writes fucking poetry. It looks like it relates its fucking Y2K things.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Well,
and then post a picture of Tom Spotnik and say, "This is what I'm talking about."
okay, well, like, yeah, one question. When it comes to satanic unity, in a perfect world, that'd be great if we get all the eggs in one basket. But the problem is the umbrella factor. Like, whose umbrella is it? Your version of Satanism, or is it mine? And in the left-hand path,
It's nobody's version. That's the beautiful thing about it. It's just codified under one word and one title. Every individual's aspect of it can be taken in any way, shape, or form they want. Who gives a fuck? The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Brian,
when those battle lines get drawn, we're all on one side.
Well, you're right. When the battle line gets drawn, you pick a side. But
exactly.
currently,
That's what we were trying to do with the monument, drawing fucking battle lines. And it's amazing to me. It's speaking of like in the metal community, like the incident that I had in Orlando with the cross. Where I didn't want to play underneath the cross that was above the stage and shit. So I should have broken the fucking thing is what I should have done after all the fucking negative press that I got from it. I should have fucking made it worth it, actually. With fucking, so I took this cross down, and the lady, like, stormed the stage and refused to get off the stage, and I'm like, fuck you, I'm not playing under that thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, the unity
she can do whatever she wants. And I was like, oh, yeah, well, what if I was black and that was a swastika? According to your logic, it's her club. She can do whatever she wants. But what was amazing to me is seeing the people speaking out against me removing this cross, and many of them open Satanists that are sitting there condemning me for not wanting to play underneath the crucifix. And and one guy, even in his default picture, he's called himself Conan something. He was holding a fucking Conan sword, and he had a displaying elbow to shoulder, a huge Goat of Mendes tattoo on his arm. And he's sitting there talking shit to me about, well, it's a club, you should never have done that. It's totally disrespectful, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, you're showing off a Goat of Mendes tattoo fucking picture, or tattoo in your default picture.
Oh yeah, no, I get that. That is it's kind of hypocrisy. That's kind of it's like what do we have respect for? Holy cows. If the cow's in my way and I'm driving my fucking car, fuck it.
I remember when metal was dangerous.
Yeah.
We didn't give a fuck. Go ask Varg what he thinks about political correctness. I mean. Go ask Corpse Grinder what he thinks of fucking political correctness.
Yeah, man.
Or odorous, man. You know what I mean?
Or fucking Kip Winger. When he's like, she's only 17. No, that was totally a joke.
That was just horrible. Don't What's next? You gonna start singing fucking Nelson?
Yeah, please don't ever do that again, Jack.
I know the band, but I can't remember any songs. Thank God.
What, Nelson? After the rape? After the rain? What was the other one? Hot beef injection. Love and affection. God, I remember those cock rock days too. But there was some Satanism in that a little bit too, with Wasp and shit.
Yeah, I think so, man.
But then you also had Striper, so
I remember them. I was, I'm 42, man. I was, 73. So, and I started pretty early. I started a bit earlier than you, Brian. And
that's the difference with our generations, man. Because you're 73, so you still went back and listened to some of those albums from the 60s and 70s. We did too. I'm 35, so I still, God, as soon as I discovered everything, it was like a Pandora's box that opened up. We went back and Destruction and Creator and fucking Possessed, Seven Churches, of course. And that was the difference with our generation. We actually went back and listened to it. These young kids, they don't know shit.
Nah.
And they're like, oh, do you like Job for a Cowboy? One kid, actually, it was many years ago, but he's like, do you like Job for a Cowboy when it first came out? And I was like, well, it kind of sounded like Carcass to me. He's like, Carcass, who are they?
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I want to slap you.
Yeah.
Well,
I just want to take. I'm like, there's something about your face. I just want to rearrange it.
That's right.
Okay, Brian's 35. I'm 39. Mike's 43. there is that was actually, you know, a great progression of I'm not an expert in metal, but I do remember like everybody's listening to Guns N' Roses and Poisonous, and like
Now, see, that was for you. For me, it was everybody. I called them cornflakes. You know, and the fucking Jinko jeans and their fucking Adidas jumpsuits. And it was all the jocks in their fucking Pantera t-shirts and the fucking their Limp Biscuit fucking baggy shorts and whatever the fuck else. Coal chamber fucking haircuts. And,
oh fuck.
you know what I mean?
That
The
was
Candy
bad.
Fucking, you know, Hot Topic, Candy Raver fucking bracelets on, going to see Orgy and shit.
Yeah,
and,
that was a bad time for metal. Bad time for metal.
There was about those that was my teenage years, man. Like fucking, it wasn't cool to be long hair and listen to Cannibal.
Yeah.
You know, I remember seeing fucking Black Sabbath with like 100 people there.
Mm.
You know, it was like, who was it? I think it was even Fear Factory. No, it was Morbid Angel.
Wow.
Morbid Angel opening for Black Sabbath, but it was Tony Martin Black Sabbath, but still.
Right.
You know, but I still like that Tear album. That Tear album was great.
I mean, that kind of brings up another interesting point that I you know, like to raise is, I mean, how do you feel the death metal movement in the 80s and 90s sort of saw an influx of you know, us deathheads to Satanism, you know, and then, you know, time went by, and then Marilyn Manson came along and kind of did the same thing. And
you know what they all have in common? You know what the one common denominator is in all of that?
What's that?
Florida.
Yeah, totally.
There's something, dude. I'm telling you, man. Until you've lived here, you know, everyone's like, "Oh, it's the Sunshine State." I'm like, nah, you ain't never lived here. There's something. There's something fucking magical about this place, man. I love it.
Yeah, hey, Brian, and that's what I want to try to go back on. The original topic was, again, what came first, chicken or the egg? Obviously, Satanism pushed that their self into metal, or metal adopted Satanism.
Well, that's what I was asking before. If you were asking about myself personally or the genre as a whole, I mean, that's an easy one to answer, man.
Okay.
Evil has always been here.
Okay, well let's talk about the genre.
Evil has always inspired music, man. Evil inspired the same inspiration that inspired death metal is the same evil inspiration that inspired the blues. So the evil and the magic always came first, you know.
Okay.
Later.
Well, you see, Brian, I'm at sort of a loss because I was never into death metal. Like the hardest I ever got was like Metallica and Slayer.
Nirvana.
No, no. Hey, I like Nirvana, but yeah. Yeah, no, Metallica, Slayer, you know, it was like when I got into death metal, it was like, yeah, fuck this shit. But but well, not fuck it like entirely. I just wasn't into it. But then I got into like, you know, industrial. It was like KMFDM.
Yeah, and industrials had the same story, man.
Well, yeah, it did. And then you have Marilyn Manson, right?
I love Ministry. You know, I grew up in Chicago, man. Of course, I love Ministry. And Ministry to me was, you know, back then there was no such thing as industrial. When Al created it, he was just trying to make metal more extreme.
Yeah.
You know, that it was really Al just trying to take the boundaries of heavy metal and just really fucking pushing it as far as it could go. You know, there was no industrial movement. I mean, you had him and like what was the other one? Frontline Assembly.
Front 242, Frontline Assembly, Marilyn Manson. Ministry. Al Jorgensen was just a mad motherfucker. But as far as Marilyn Manson goes, like he did more for Satanism and introducing Satanism, as far as I'm aware of, than any death metal band.
That just burned Thomas Thorne's ass when he basically.
Oh yeah.
Thomas Thorne did just
I'm
which is fine.
See, I'm on the outside.
He is a douche, but yeah, Electric Hellfire Club was great.
What were you saying, Mike? What
I kind of feel like Marilyn Manson kind of worked with the numbers, you know, like there was already that crowd, you know, the satanic crowd, if you will, or the people that kind of succumbed to Marilyn Manson because of the death metal movement in the late 80s and early 90s, you know. I mean,
the thing, whenever you're going to be a band of that status, it's going to blow up. If you're not accepted in your hometown, you'll never be accepted anywhere. You know, if your biggest shows aren't your hometown shows, then you're never going to go anywhere. Because if people don't love you where you live, then nobody else is going to love you. You know, and Manson here and that whole fetish scene and shit like that is huge here. You know, and there's a lot of supporters. You know, and he really kind of hit it off with the metalheads, and that already established. There's a huge rivet head community here, man. You know, a huge industrial community here. So, you know, they were the ones that really supported it and pushed it up. Where Electric Hellfire comes from in, like, Milwaukee, Chicago, I mean, yeah, it's there, but, you know, they just don't give a fuck. You know, it is what it is. You know, it's a much harder scene to come out of, you know, and then plus Marilyn Manson's Jewish, so I'm sure that helped too. You say it doesn't help you in music, but we all know you're lying.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. He had the money, you know.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's funny, like if you read Portrait of American Family, like the fan club information, it goes to an address on Spanish River Highway. It's right up the street from me. Dude, it's all like $10 million homes. Yeah. And he was living with his parents when they did the first album.
Yeah, yeah.
So his parents were just fucking loaded.
Yeah.
I mean, fucking loaded.
Yeah, I bet, man.
So there's another band that's just like from Florida too. I'm not gonna mention who. Daddy's worth about $50 million. Helped him buy onto some really big tours that helped him sell a whole lot of albums.
Yeah.
And so, but you know, it's just the name of the game, man. You know, music's never been about being a fair business.
Yeah.
You know, and anybody that thinks otherwise. So, you know, I always help finding an edge by having some little extra dark forces on my side to help kind of push some shit through.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the greatest satanic, frontmen of all time, man, is Glenn Danzig.
Yeah.
You know, King Diamond too. You know, people give credit to Marilyn Manson. King Diamond is really the first one that, in my opinion, after Venom, that really injected it into metal. Merciful Fate and shit. Nuns Have No Fun. Fucking what was that? 79.
Yeah.
80s, something like that.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, I'm probably one of the only metalheads in the world that doesn't collect vinyl. I own one vinyl is in my collection, and that's it. I'm staring at it framed on my wall right now. And it's actually an original pressing of Nuns Have No Fun I bought from Michael Denner personally. And signed by Michael Denner. I got it at his record store in Copenhagen.
Awesome.
I figured once you have the Bible, there's the collection is pointless. I have the Grand Grimoire,
So Brian, you got your Gore guitar back, right? The autograph, your baby. Shit. Hell yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, man.
The power of Brocky compels you.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Absolutely. Nice. I've actually been on a bit of a Brock kick lately. Sat there for 2 hours in front of YouTube and watched the funeral kind of gig and whatnot, watch Randy Blythe speak and, sad situation, man. And I know that he was a good friend of yours, Brian, and my condolences for your loss, brother.
Thank you, man. Yeah, we were in Europe when that happened.
Yeah.
And that was the worst part about it. I couldn't go home to the funeral. I was fucking... Everyone's like, oh, yeah, touring Europe is so much fun. I'm like, dude, that was like the 4th date of tour. And just in like Eastern Europe, where nobody speaks English. It's March. It's cold. It's raining. It's just depressed. The food sucks. You have no phone, no support structure. Can't talk to anybody. Just like locked down inside your mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was fucking tough, man. And then, the funeral happened and we were playing Paris that day. And I was just in that fucking mood. I was hoping somebody would say something to me. I was just looking for a fight. And I wore that infidel shirt, the one that says fuck Allah. And I was walking around downtown Paris by Moulin Rouge where all the Muslims are. Yeah, from the promoter. So that statement came from earlier. The promoter looked at me there. He's like, "You're not afraid of what the Muslims are saying?" I'm like, "Fuck that shit. They need to be afraid of me, not the other way around." And it was kind of cool though, because Devil Driver was playing in Paris that night.
Yeah.
Devil Driver was playing in Paris that night, and Jeff and them and the boys are good friends, and they were friends with Brocky too. So I took a cab across Paris and met up with them down by their show. We all went out to dinner and raised a glass for Brocky.
Cool.
And then had the same way you just saw it, man, watching all the speeches. And to be honest, I haven't even brought myself to watch it yet. I saw 3 of the eulogies, and I had to stop after that. I couldn't even watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know, so.
I mean, I still feel the same way about Dime. You know, every time I hear Planet Caravan, although it's not a Pantera song, but every time I hear that, you know, it brings up a tinge of sadness. You know what I mean? I met the guy and you know, had him. He pulled me a black tooth grin, man, and you know, I at the time, you know, even now, I was just some dude from New Zealand, you know, who wants to talk shop, you know. But at that time, like, you know, talking to Dime, it was like I was the center of his universe, and that's how he made you feel, you know. I don't know if you ever met I don't know if you ever met Dime.
You know what? I never did.
Right.
I know Phil very well. You know, Phil's a good friend.
Yeah. Yeah, very special, you know, and just, yeah, like, even, you know, I kind of feel like Dime was our John Lennon, you know what I mean? As far as his death goes, like, the world was completely shocked when what's his name shot John Lennon, and yeah, it was the same. I remember exactly where I was, you know, when Dime got shot. So,
you know, and it was just amazing to me too, like, you know, the lack of coverage that it got.
Yeah.
You know, if that would have been Kanye,
yeah,
which we all hope and wish and pray for.
yeah,
Like, I'm just waiting for the fucking day, man, when he interrupts somebody's fucking acceptance speech, and somebody just cracks him in the fucking jaw. You know, I'm just waiting for it, dude. You know, I love that little Corey Taylor thing that he said. I'm just waiting for I want to see him give an acceptance speech and watch somebody else come up and fucking interrupt him.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, he does it to little pussy ass bitches like Beck. He just sits there in class going,
Yeah.
Just look at, I mean, dude, I'm sorry. Beck just looks like a pussy to me. You look at that guy and you can just tell he would vote for Hillary.
He does, man. He really does.
Well, doesn't Beck shave like razor blades in the dark or something? I mean, come on.
I don't know. I didn't even know he was relevant in like the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And like, I remember that Loser song from high school, and like, he's winning awards still. Okay. But then like, I just saw his reaction, like when Kanye jumped up there, and just how pussy and pacifist he was. And then I just liked it. I just thought of him as less of a man.
Yeah.
Stand up for yourself, man. You know, fuck you. This is your time. It's your award. Take your shit. Don't let this fucking person come in and fucking steal from you. You know, fucking, you know, and then he just like class gives him a pat on the back and hands him the microphone.
Hey,
Like,
hey, all hail Alien Ant Farm. Come on. Are you dissing on our shit?
oh, Alien Ant Farm's done? No, they're not. They were just on tour. I'm not joking. They were just on tour.
Oh, really? What happened to Beck?
Yeah, still making money off of a song that they didn't write.
What is that, a Smooth Criminal? Or?
Really badly, too.
Yeah, it's a fucking Michael Jackson song.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Come on, fuck that.
It's not even a fucking creative cover. You know what I mean?
Hey, Orgy did the same shit with a fucking New Order cover.
Yeah.
And I hated New Order.
Yeah.
I don't know why people thought I would like that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and it's funny, like, I'd actually rather hang out with some of the fucking goth kids than some of the metal kids nowadays. You know, because at least the goth kids got fucking integrity.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know how many people that I've seen, you know, it's funny, like when I go back home, and I've seen the progressions, like people that I've known for like 20 years, and how they went from long hair to their rap rock phase to their fucking whatever the fuck that was in the millennial, the fucking well, it's still kind of the same thing. The skinny jeans, African earplugs, and Crayola tattoos. Insert sentence long band name here. Yeah. Fucking cookie cutter, fucking here. Like, dairy freeze. Here's your CD. Here's your CD. You know, every fucking jackass with fucking Pro Tools and a Macintosh now thinks he's a record producer.
Absolutely.
You know, And also the way that the fans can contact the band so easily now too via social media and stuff. You know, you didn't have that back in the day.
No,
You
man.
know, you couldn't just fucking leave a message and fucking have everybody in Cannibal Corpse see it somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. I
Well,
mean, and I'll go one step further even and go back, you know, back in my day, we used to have to fight past Tyrannosaurus Rexes to get to the post office to post a tape to a dude in Norway so that he could post us a tape back, you know, and 3 weeks later I'd have new music.
well,
You know, I
wait,
remember
wait,
doing that.
wait
I
a
remember
minute.
tape writing.
I sent to Axl Rose an email like in 1999. What are you guys saying? You don't respond to that shit?
Dude, you know, it's just like nowadays, you know, everybody just sees your Facebook and send you a message, and sometimes it's just such a generic ass fucking question, like what happened to Dave Suzuki?
Yeah.
Really? I gotta
Yeah.
respond to this? You know, and then you don't give them a fucking 3-paragraph dissertation and, you know, giving out intimate band details and the inner workings of everything, and then they say you're an asshole. It's like, well, first of all, you're commenting about a member who I was never in the band with.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I wasn't there. I'm not going to comment on something that I had nothing to do with.
Yeah.
You know, and second of all, it was like 8 years ago. You claim to be a fan of the band and you don't know that he's been gone for 8 years?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. It's not like a little while. It's been like almost a decade.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Didn't happen last week, motherfucker.
Yeah, you know, we're talking like fucking George Bush is president type shit. You know? Remember that guy? Yeah, back then.
Yeah.
I wasn't even in this fucking band. I couldn't tell you what happened.
Yeah, man.
You know, none of my business. That's what happened. No, it's and I'm in the band, so if it's none of my business, it's none of your fucking business.
Yeah, yeah.
But you can't say that to people because then you're an asshole. And, oh my God, he's so mean. You know, he probably supports bullying. Like, yeah, I do. I fucking survival of the fittest, the fastest, and the strongest, social Darwinism. I'm all fucking for it. Might is right, motherfuckers.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, eight fucking men, you know.
Yeah, fucking A, man.
Well, you don't travel by yourself. Yeah, apex predators usually travel by themselves.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's what they said at fucking top.
So Brian, what do you think, man? What do you think? Do you think that, I mean, and both of you guys are a lot more knowledgeable. Death metal is not my strength, but what do you think? Do you think these Satanists that are using like upside down crosses and inverted pentagrams and stuff, are they really Satanists, or are they just playing upon the image?
That's a very bland and generic question.
Yes, it is.
A little bit more specific. I mean, it's as specific as who's doing it. You know, obviously there's some weak pussy ass little bitches that do it for fucking shock value. You know, but then go say that to Watain. You know, you don't fuck with Watain, man. Them boys, dude, they make me look like a fucking dude. Them boys on some fucking another level, man. Much respect, much respect to fucking Legion of the Blacklight boys, man. Them fucking.
I read a story about Watain that I don't know if they still do it, but like they would tour Europe on a 30 whatever 40 46 or whatever date, you know, date tour, and they would
no shower.
Yeah, and don't shower, but also they would start it with a bucket, a 20-liter bucket.
Yeah, it just sits in the middle. It just sits in the middle of the aisle, coagulating and everything. Yeah, everybody's getting sick with bloodborne pathogens, and yep.
Yeah, dude, they still do it, man. But
the first time I ever met Watain, they showed up at a club here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. They were on tour with Angel Corps, and their van air conditioning broke. And same thing, they don't shower on tour, and they use the dead animal blood on stage every night. And they don't wash it off. And then they showed up at the club. The AC in the van broke, South Florida, middle of summer. And they come out in this van. They just open the door, and the smell. Apparently, they had found a rotting deer carcass on the side of the road, and they had it in the back of their van.
Right.
And they kept it with them the rest of the tour, and that's what they were using for blood and shit on stage, whatever. It was a roadkill fucking deer carcass that they were toting around. And, you know, I understand, you know, kind of the idea behind it. Number one, They believe that the dead flesh is the conduit for the magic to flow. Every live show is an actual ritual.
Right.
And they wanted to assault all the senses, that, you know, visually, sonically, you know, harmoniously, with, you know, by smelling it. When you walk into a Watain show, it smells like death.
Oh yeah, man.
You know, it's a whole nother attack and a whole nother sense that people never really thought about before.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's genius.
We've got a band over here that I'm good friends with. A band called Sculdum, and they've been doing that since.
Well, that's what, you know, it's kind of like that South Park episode. Simpsons did it. I just kind of go, Mayhem did it.
Yeah.
You know, but then again, you can't say that either. I was about to say, you know, Watain's a little bit more serious about it, but then I'm like, fucking Mayhem's history is written in blood too.
Absolutely, dude.
You know, so is Dissections.
And there were no precedents set back when Mayhem did it, you know?
Oh, no, that was just fucking 0 to 100 in the blink of an eye.
But yeah, man. I mean, the whole Norwegian thing just got really crazy really fucking quickly, dude. You know, the burning of the churches and those boys just went from 0 to hero, you know. And I mean,
Boston, that shit too.
Yeah.
Fucking John and Dissection and the ritual suicide. And the murders, and then the fucking there was probably about 100 different church burnings.
Over what, 14 months or something, you know?
Yeah, well, no, it's still going, still ongoing. It's still getting calls here and there. I think that was like the running total over all the years.
Yeah,
100. I think then it was like 50, 60 in those first like year and a half.
Yeah,
you know,
the Norwegian black scene. Musically, if you look at all those guys, like Faust is now in, or was in Blood Tsunami, and a lot of these guys have gone back to their thrash roots, which I think is really, really cool, you know?
Well, that's why I always loved Old Man's Child, you know?
Yeah.
The fucking In Defiance of Existence album is fucking incredible.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
You know, and Satyricon does the same thing, except they sound more like a fucking rock band now.
Yeah, they're funny, like, again, a band of, you know, true believers by image, you know what I mean? I mean, that's the impression I get. I haven't really looked into them too heavily, but they appear to come across as a band of really true believers, you know? There was that documentary on Under a Pale Grey Sky. Yeah. And right at the end, they've got Frost from Satyricon, and he's doing this live kind of street art performance, and he's all corpse painted up and whatnot.
Big controversy in Hollywood right now too, because like Lionsgate, or one of the big ones, just wants to make a movie called Lords of Chaos.
Yeah.
And fucking Necro's fucking furious about it, because he was already working with somebody on a fucking movie script and everything, you know, and it doesn't look like they're going to be able to do it. And he's going to lose out on the story of his own fucking life.
Yeah.
You know,
they've been talking about making that movie for a long time, since the book.
So that's supposed to start filming in October.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's probably you know, Necro's a good friend of mine, man. I own a printing company, and we print all the merchandise for Mayhem every time they tour the U.S.
Cool.
I'm actually one of 4 people in the world that has a official Mayhem crew vest.
Okay.
I'm proud to say, fucking A.
Yeah.
They look like MC fucking cuts, like 3-patch cuts.
Yeah.
It's like Mayhem Crew from Hell. It says Norway on the bottom.
Yeah.
So
the interview he did for Metal Headbangers Journey, I thought was fucking priceless. You know?
Oh, I love the exorcism of Bob Larson.
Oh yeah.
That was great.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of death around. He's like, yeah. I'm wearing a necklace of my singer's skull fragments.
Hey, well, you were real quick, guys. I mean, you guys have got like way over my head talking about death metal stuff, which I'm. No offense, Brian. I'm not a big fan.
Once you got past Nirvana, you were lost.
Oh well, no, I was hardcore, man. I was like Megadeth, Symphony of Destruction, you know. Joking, but.
That's about as satanic as Will Smith is gangster rap.
Yeah, well, what? You can't get jiggy with it? Get jiggy with it. Okay. No, but you know what though? You have like 9 Inch Nails, right? Like I kind of went that direction with my music scene, and it was the influence as far as Satanism goes. Actually started for me with the Satanic Panic, and it was like, oh, this guy's got on like Geraldo and saying he kills babies, and this is blowing up all over, and then it like moved into the metal scene with like that Judas Priest issue and all that shit, and then death metal came along. And I don't know. I personally am a fan more of like the industrial, like 9 Inch Nails. And what nailed Jesus to the cross? 9 Inch Nails, right? And who made Marilyn Manson? It was
9 Inch Nails never had an album cover of Jesus Christ on a dissection table called "Once Upon the Cross."
well.
When was that album? Fucking 94, 95?
Yeah, something like that.
You know, I mean, that's what I was saying with the Marilyn Manson thing. You know, what Marilyn Manson did was cool, but he was working with numbers that had been made by bands like Deicide, like, you know,
there's all sorts of stories from here in Fort Lauderdale. You know, back in the day when Manson used to go to Deicide shows and get the shit kicked out of him by all the skinheads.
Yeah.
He'd sit there with like his little fucking lunchbox and his tights and shit. And he would go to see fucking Deicide because they were the only satanic band fucking. I mean, the word itself means to kill God.
Yeah.
Yeah, they kind of wanted like the defining fucking. Well, them and Morbid Angel, you can't deny Morbid Angel either. You know, that was, and they were actually before Deicide, so.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was more Morbid Angel. You know, Morbid Angel kind of went into the esoteric and the more arcane kind of thing. And musically, they were a bit more melodic, which I kind of dug. But yeah, I was definitely a more of a Morbid Angel guy than I was a Deicide guy.
Bless him.
Oh, dude, that fucking album. I mean, I'll go as far as to say Domination.
Oh,
too.
fucking, I do it all day long.
I fucking love.
I'll go as far as to say fucking everything up. Yeah, I even love the last one. I don't even give a fuck what anybody says. Last one's great.
I would never bag it. I'm not bagging it. It's not my cup of tea.
It's simple. Check it out. I can put it into terms that you'll totally agree with. There's 12 songs.
Yeah.
There's 4 songs we just don't even talk about. There's 4 songs that they don't exist. Okay.
Yeah.
You just delete them out the fucking playlist forever. You never have to listen to them again.
Yeah, man.
And then you have 8 songs left, and you listen to those 8 songs, and it's a goddamn good Morbid Angel album.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that most people didn't see it that way and only were crediting about this couple of fucking things, when in all reality, any other album that would have 8 out of 12 songs be good, that's a successful album.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, that song Nevermore just fucking rips.
Doesn't it though?
Oh, dude, if that's not Morbid Angel, I don't know what is.
What do you think about the return of Steve Tucker, man? I'm really excited about it.
I don't know how I feel about all that, man. David's a good friend of mine. David's a brother. You know, I don't know how I feel. I don't know what happened. I don't want to know what happened. It's none of my business.
Right.
All I know is that there's some discontent there. I've known Trey for years. I love Trey. He's a good dude. David's like family. And
yeah.
I stay at David's house in Tampa, Texas. You know, and he comes here. I mean, so I'm not trying to take sides on that. I don't know what happened, but I will say I love me some fucking Formulas Fatal to the Flesh.
Oh, fuck yeah.
And I love me some fucking Gateways to Annihilation.
I
love me some Heretic. You know, so it's I'll leave it at that. You know what I mean? So.
I mean, I wasn't trying to draw you into any kind of conversation.
Oh, no, it's all good. I just had to let that be known, you know.
For me, musically, I'm really excited about it, man. I mean, I saw Morbid Angel, wasn't long ago, maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago. 2006, I think it was. And while it was a great show, it was good to see Morbid Angel with Dave and Trey, and I'm pretty sure Pete was in there too.
That was Tim.
Was it Tim?
Yeah.
Okay. It was cool to see those cats, you know, and it was cool to hear those songs, but like, I mean, I don't want to be I'm not one of those dudes that whinges and whines about every fucking show they go to, but I kind of felt like the Morbid Angel show I saw was exactly the same as the Morbid Angel show they were going to do tomorrow night and that they did last night, you know?
Well, it's always that, man. I mean, it's the same way with me, you know? It's a DVD, man. You put it in, you push play, you go every night. You know, to the point where I say the same things in between songs. I work it out the first night of tour. You know, I say the same things to the crowd in between the same exact songs. I give the same speeches.
Yeah,
You know, it's more for the band, you know, so that way the band knows where I'm at.
Sure.
You know, it's not confusing to anybody. Oh, are we starting now? No, they know what I'm saying. They know how this next song is coming in. You know, everybody's on point. Everybody's prepared for it. You know.
Yeah.
Wait, guys. Sorry to interrupt, but we only have a few minutes left as far as recording time goes. I want to ask both of you. In my opinion, Marilyn Manson, although I'm not like a huge Mansonite or Marilyn Manson fan, I would like to throw
My
out.
name's fucking Brian Werner.
I know, right? He like stole your name. Wait, no, he's old.
Dude, I got fucking adopted when I was 2 years old. So I got the fucking last name. That was my birth name.
I know that.
And I live in Lauderdale.
That's some fucked up shit. Oh, Marilyn Manson sings her vital remains. It's like, well, yeah, okay.
Spell dipshit.
Right. But
difference between an E and an A, motherfucker.
I know, right? But I would argue the fact that Marilyn Manson, as a musician, has drawn more attention to Satanism than any death metal band or even Anton LaVey. If you're looking at numbers, what do you guys think about that?
No. The numbers were already there because of the death metal movement in the late 80s and early 90s. I mean, you got to remember Deicide and Glenn Benton and fucking
We're already putting thousands of people in a room a night, 10 years old.
Yeah, and they were going like, there was no precedent set for what these cats were doing, you know? Like, Deicide wrote, you know, Legion, for example.
Dude, Venom and fucking Welcome to Hell. You know, Merciful Fate, fucking early 80s, Bathory.
Yeah, and these guys were working with no, like, they didn't know, they had no fan base, you know what I mean? They didn't even know if people were going to dig it. Marilyn Manson went into his career.
Like Black Sabbath and Judas Priest.
Yeah. I mean, Marilyn Manson went into his career with an already set audience, you know? He already knew, and I mean, you got to remember too that Marilyn Manson is a journalist. He went to college and did journalism, you know? So he knows how the press works.
Fucking worked at a record label here, interviewed Trent the demo, but 9 Inch Nails was already on fucking their like first or second album, if I'm not mistaken. Like I think I'd already been on Broken. Ministry had already been around for 10 years. That sound was already established.
Yeah. Marilyn Manson for me didn't really do anything too special, you know, apart from wear a fucking leather G-string on stage and no worries.
Well, there was something about that Antichrist album that was just. It's like Phil Anselmo told me one time. He's like, you know, every once in a while, you just get this culmination of just perfect entities that just align at the right, like Pantera did.
Sure.
It was just the right sound of the right music at the right time. You know, and that's what Marilyn Manson did. But, you know, if you take notice, that's also what Limp Bizkit did.
Yeah.
You know, that's also what a bunch of other shit bands did after it. So just because his popularity in music exploded, a lot of those people were already the disenfranchised Satanists that were listening to the New Order, that were listening to fucking Depeche Mode and fucking all the goth shit, all the industrial shit, all the metal shit. He just kind of fucking brought them all together.
Well, yeah, you know, it was, but you know, Marilyn Manson's Antichrist Superstar, which Brian, I mean, agreeing with you, if you're even agreeing with me, that is Manson's like epic album. That I'm sorry.
And you know why? Because it was scary. There was mystery to it.
Oh, and it was badass. They had like, you know, and they had actually conformed like I think it was called like, you know, whatever the first album was called, like the Family, blah blah.
Portrait of American Family.
That's it. That's it.
Well, that was more like a rock and roll album. So
it was cool, but then he came out with like some weird, strange industrial sound.
No, that's because he didn't do it. It's because he fucking had Trent do the whole album.
Well,
read the book and it even explains it. Like they went up to Trent's house and they did a bunch of drugs, and then they realized they hadn't done anything, so they brought Trent into the studio and made him do most of it.
And then what the fuck is that about? Like, okay, like, but again, I stand by my statement. I think Marilyn Manson, as far as a musician, has drawn more attention to Satanism than any other band.
Dude, the Satanic Panic.
No, I think Slayer might have something to say about that.
Yeah, and I think Florida Death Metal will have something to say about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Satanic Panic was created by the death metal people, by the death metal movement, you know?
I mean, dude, we had Tipper Gore going into sessions of Congress to try and fucking ban our music.
Fuck yeah, man.
When was okay. You have the parental advisory stickers on albums.
Okay, but how are we gauging this? How are we gauging about who's more influential?
Manson's first album was like 93, 94. The scene was already established in 84.
Oh no, I don't doubt that. I'm not trying to say that death metal, you know, is irrelevant by any means. I'm just saying if we're looking at numbers and we're looking at the last decade or two.
But you're counting the numbers of people that were already there.
Already exposed to the satanic side, you know.
Oh, okay. I get it. So you're saying that death metal is there since the mid.
Like, you know, take the community that was already there, and how much did he grow it? You know, exponentially, and that's really not that much because he was already attracting people that were into Satanism and into heavy music.
Yeah, and had already been exposed to it. Through the death.
Okay, so in an underground sort of way, death metal like paved the road, whereas Marilyn Manson.
At the time Marilyn Manson came out, 2 members of Mayhem were dead, one by murder, one by suicide. Hundreds of churches had been burned and people in jail, lives destroyed, ritual suicide, and then Manson came out.
Yeah.
Okay, but who got the airplay? Who got the airplay when you turn to 92? You know, 0.10 Rock XM, whatever. It was Marilyn Manson's Beautiful People, right?
That's nothing.
That's like comparing Will Smith to Tupac, dude.
Well, no, I get it. I'm not. I'm not trying to talk about like who's a real Satanist. It's not like Eminem, like who's a real Slim Shady type shit. I'm saying like who exposes to the masses.
Because Tupac would never get played on the radio as where Will Smith does. When Marilyn Manson got played on the radio, you'll never hear Cannibal on the radio.
Absolutely.
You won't hear Deicide on the radio.
You're right.
And how big did Cannibal and Deicide get without the radio, you know?
Slayer, you don't hear Slayer on the radio. It doesn't stop them from being one of the #1 selling artists in history.
Yeah.
You know, millions of albums sold.
Exactly.
You know, and actually, the last Slayer albums came out at #1 on the Billboard charts.
Yeah.
So, you know, and that's with no radio play and no TV. So just because something isn't being blasted and mass marketed doesn't mean that it's not outselling something else.
Yeah. Hey, Zach, are you still recording this, bro?
Absolutely, man.
Awesome, man. Brilliant. Because this is good shit.
Well, yeah, because I'm going to record it and send Marilyn Manson this conversation and have Marilyn Manson come back and be like, fucking, you all stars now in the dope show. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not denying anything he did. I mean, like I said, I saw him on the 96. It was amazing. The Antichrist album was incredible. It was just the right album at the right time. And it had some mystery. It scared people, you know, and it was great. It was just, there was this atmosphere in the air, and it was just the right thing at the right time. And it definitely, I mean, I still listen to it. You know, I had it on the car fucking 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I'm not denying it. But then it was, you know, I mean, for me personally, then he started fucking sounding like David Bowie, and I fucking hate David Bowie.
Yeah. Oh. Blasphemy.
Yeah, David Bowie sucks.
Yeah, he does.
Fucking him.
But you know, he went on Ellen DeGeneres' talk show and said he was the same.
Another human being who sucks.
Right? He did go on Ellen.
Shitty human beings at a television show. I can't wait to hear the end of this.
I want Zach to go away from this interview.
Wait.
Really
Okay, well let's go back to Manson's '96 shit. Antichrist Superstar, the one and only time I saw him, and it was epic. I mean, it only had like 10,000 people, but he came out on stilts and like his garter belt, and, like bondage suits, ripped up a Bible and a podium, and it was just like, boom, and the Confederate shit, you know, fell. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that was
With the big banners when they sang Antichrist Superstar, he's dressed up like the president,
like a politician.
And then he'd come out with the American flag wrapped around his waist when they would do 1996.
Yeah, you got it, man. Yeah, I was there too, man.
That was the same year Typo Negative was touring for October Rush.
Oh man,
and they had
fucking
big trees on stage with like the dead leaves falling everywhere. It was killer.
And I mean,
2000, early 2000.
Manson or Typo?
What was that?
Manson or Typo?
Manson.
Oh.
I mean, it was a great show, and blah blah blah. It was, you know, a Manson show, but I really didn't dig the way he turned around and had hissy fits on stage, kicking over the fucking keyboard, and he was all about the fucking Axl Rose-ness of it. I mean, you'd never see David doing that. You'd never see fucking Trey or fucking, I'd like to say Glenn Benton, but I've seen him do that too.
Yeah, I've seen him do it.
Yeah.
Hey,
you
I
know,
can't even say I haven't done it, man. You know, it just depends. You know, sometimes you're just having a bad fucking day.
So what's up with Peter Steele, man? I listened. I'm a big fan, huge fan of Tep on Negative, coming from the goth industrial background. He seems like a fucking Satanist. He seems like a fucking Satanist to me. But what do you guys think?
He was a total fucking Nazi.
Oh, really?
Dude, go read those old Carnivore lyrics. Dude, what was the lyrics like? Little Tijuana's got a birth defect, so don't increase his
now, did he write them or did he just sing them?
Yeah, those are his lyrics.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah.
If you don't pay taxes, then you shouldn't vote. So get in line and get on the boat. Fucking.
Honestly, I can't say I disagree with that though. I mean,
Peter was a cool dude, man. He was funny.
Yeah. He struck me as a pretty cool cat, you know. I mean, I never met him, but the image I got from interviews and his music was, he's a very serious guy, you know. I mean, a lot of that's just for joke, man, for humor. Yeah.
He's a very funny fucking guy.
Right.
He's always cracking jokes. You know, you can never be around him and you just weren't fucking falling over.
Yeah.
Kind of that New York comedian type.
Sure.
You know, the real fucking tough guy kind of attitude, you know.
Yeah.
You know,
what are you, big?
Yeah, but the motherfucker's like 7 foot tall, 300 pounds. Are you with him? You looking at jackass?
Jackass. So you mentioned you were looking at studios and whatnot, Brian. You haven't settled on a studio for the new Vital album?
I got no idea. I don't handle that shit. That's all Tony.
Cool.
I go where I'm told, when I'm told.
Yeah.
Here you go. Here's your ticket. You're coming here. Okay.
I'll be there. See you then.
Yeah.
You know I'm there because I'll be the one with the bells on.
Yeah. Last, when you guys were done after 2 weeks of recording and drilling yourselves, and all the music is finally done, that's when I'm going to show up. I'm not going to get there before. No.
Yeah.
Well, you don't want to be here for the process? No, I don't play drums. I don't play guitar.
Yeah.
One less opinion in the mixing room.
Hey, Brian, what age in your life, if there's like a specific age, that can you say that you actually personally identify yourself as a Satanist?
No. I just don't have one, man. It was, like I said, just always there. I don't even remember starting to call myself that, to be honest with you.
Okay.
It just kind of became, ever since the first time I took a knife to school in like 4th grade and carved 666 in the desk.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
First time when I was 14 years old and I carved Slayer in my arm. And, you know, it's hard to say. You know, there's really not a time frame on it, you know?
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. You know, I mean, even when I started, when I was like fucking 11, 12, and listening to fucking, you know, Appetite for Destruction or Slippery When Wet, or, you know, those fucking Theater of Pain, yeah. I knew instantly that I really, really dug it and I really liked it, but it was never enough, you know, and hence my journey into the heavier and the darker and then into death metal, you know. It wasn't until I got to death metal that I knew that yeah, okay, this is musically, this is where I want to be. This is what I want to do, you know. This is what I want to listen to. All
right. Well, I guess here's my question, guys. Is I'm trying to connect the dots. Like, you know, we all have our musical tastes and dislikes. You know, like just like what Mike was saying, like, oh, you know, I like Deicide, or I got a Deicide at a young age. How did that really influence you as far as your interest in Satanism, was it their over the top imagery with the upside down crosses and inverted pentagrams? I mean, how is that really relevant to Satanism, if it is at all?